Ahlan, Maui and Trizzy here. As we cruise south along the Nile River, for those just joining us on our Egyptian adventures, we have 2 videos that precedes this. It'll show you our time in Luxor before we boarded the Nile River cruise. You'll definitely want to hear about the headache we dealt with our original tour company that didn't pick us up for the Nile River cruise tour. Please check it out, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button to see the rest of our Egyptian dream trip. If you've already seen it, thank you for following along. Okay, let's get to cruising. Ahoy from the Esmeralda. We booked a 3 nights, 4 days Nile River cruise from Luxor, sailing down to Aswan through Nazca Tours. They are a third-party vendor at the Hilton Luxor, but you can book them through their website. With lodging and meals included for 2 people, we paid around $450 USD. Note that this price does not include the tours. Our ship, the Esmeralda, was beautiful like the vessel's name. After our West Bank tour, we got dropped off at the docking area at the Corniche. We hopped through different ships to finally arrive at ours. Refreshing welcome drinks awaited us as we were greeted upon entrance. While waiting to be checked in, we admired the bright, grand look of the lobby with the spiral staircase leading up 2 more stories. Our room was located at the bottom deck. Not the best part, to be honest. Our room reeked of gasoline smell, assuming we were right next to the engine room near the aft. We just stuck extra towels under the door to block the smell, and it helped. But the room itself was pretty spacious. To our surprise, our view out the window was the water level and waves. The bathroom had the basics: shower, toilet, sink, all working fine. There was also a safety box to store important documents and belongings. The room is bigger and better than the standard cruise ship rooms we had in the past, and as long as there's tea and a device to boil water, we are good. Since we arrived in the evening, dinner was ready. It was buffet style with servings of flavorful traditional Egyptian dishes. Lots of meats, fresh vegetables, and fruits. Side note, tomatoes and cucumbers during our trip were the best we've ever had. And back to the buffet, where they had a dangerous assortment of desserts. We can't put into words how much the dinner spread hit the spot, especially after a few hours touring the West Bank. As much walking as we didn't mind the rice, bread, and whatever carb was available. Keep in mind, during lunch and dinner, beverages are not included, so there will be extra cost for that. But at breakfast, coffee and tea were included. The night ended with the belly dance performance. We stayed dock overnight in Luxor the first night. The next morning, before breakfast started, we witnessed sunrise at the top deck. Afterwards, we got our first dose of the breakfast buffet. It involved an omelet station, a crepe station, crunchy falafel, and enough variety for us to love what breakfast we had.
Very herby.
We timed our meal perfectly so that we could go to the Karnak Temple for a few hours before the ship set sail. If you want to check out our time at the Karnak Temple, check out our 4-day in Luxor itinerary visual. But for now, we'll just focus on the cruise. After spending about 2 hours at Karnak, which wasn't enough, we made it back to the ship in time for departure. We went up on the top deck to fall in love with the passing scenery on the way down to our next stop, Edfu. To kill some time before lunch, we did some workouts on the top deck and enjoyed the views of other cruise ship racing among us. Lunch was scheduled later than what we were used to, but that doesn't mean we didn't enjoy every bite of what the buffet offered. Another spread of Egyptian cuisine and carbs to fill you up for the day. The top deck, accompanied by a pool and bar, were additional amenities that kept your time on the cruise lively. The most entertaining was seeing how vendors in their tiny rowboats latched onto cruise ships in an attempt to sell clothing by tossing up their products. You can catch the sunrise before your day starts with breakfast and a tour, or relax on a lounge during sunset where complimentary high tea is served, which is what we did until lights out. Next morning, we got our negotiation power ready to bargain with the tricycle vendor that will take us to the Temple of Edfu. We landed with 200 Egyptian pounds, $7 USD round trip. You can negotiate for a horse carriage if that's more of your style. Walking to the temple is also an option. It's a 15-minute stroll, but you'll cautiously be sharing the narrow path with horses and the tricycles.
خلاص يا دادا.
Alright, we made it to Edfu, Aswan. First stop, the Edfu Temple, to see the Temple of Horus.
Entrance fee was 200 Egyptian pounds per person. You'll notice how intact the Temple of Edfu is. That's because it was discovered under a hill of sand around the mid-1800s. Another name for this is the Temple of Horus. Ceremonies and celebrations happen here a lot in honor of Horus, the sun god and creator of the sky. Horus is portrayed as a falcon. Statues and carvings of it are noticeably around the temple and walls. Within the temple holds chambers, hypostyle halls, and the sanctuary of Horus. The sanctuary is blocked off, but viewable from a distance. It houses the granite shrine that would display a gold statue of Horus, which can be found in Cairo at the Egyptian Museum, and a replica of the granite boat that was once used to parade the statue around during celebrations and festivals. To see the sanctuary requires patience and a little bit of force. Needless to say, it was crowded.
We made it.
We battled through the tour groups and spent about an hour and a half at the Temple of Edfu. Hopped back on our tricycle back to the docks where our ship Esmeralda awaits. We negotiated a rate of 200 Egyptian pounds for a round trip prior to the trip, but the driver tried to charge us more at the end, so be aware that this may happen to you. We spent that afternoon on our ship's rooftop pool. The sun was beaming, but the water was cold. More and more people presented themselves on the vacant lounger as we headed down to our evening stop in Kom Ombo. A nap after lunch was needed, and we woke up upon arrival in Kom Ombo, where the Crocodile Museum is. This temple sits along the Nile River, so once you set foot off the ship, you're able to walk to the entrance and pay your fee of 240 Egyptian pounds, $8 USD. The timing of being at this temple was a photographer's dream. The golden hour of sunset provided a magical feel to the symmetrical double temple dedicated to the crocodile god Sobek and the sun god Horus. We shared this temple with several other cruise ships, so it was a busy experience walking through the hypo-style halls. Pieces of the temple were spotted in a closed-off section from previous earthquakes and past vandalism. Most of the temple is still put together to provide a gasping sight to visit while in Egypt. The admission includes the Crocodile Museum. On display were mummified crocodiles and the history of Sobek and the importance of crocodiles in ancient Egypt. Sobek was worshipped for protection, strength, and fertility. Crocodiles helped indicate potential flood in the Nile River because they would nest their eggs above flood level. We hustled past the vendors that tried to sell us souvenirs at the exit while on our way back to the ship. The night grew darker as the Kom Ombo temple in the distance became more magical with lights hitting the structure and hypo-style hall. This was our last night on the ship. Tomorrow, we will wake up in Aswan. Although we experienced a hiccup at the beginning of our trip, we realized how much that was supposed to happen, so that we can have this grand adventure along the Nile River. We're losing a day in Aswan, but that just means we'll have to come back another time to explore Egypt again. During extensive research of finding a Nile River cruise tour, we noticed there's more dates and options if you were to book Aswan to Luxor. What we did was Luxor to Aswan, and results were limited in dates that worked for us. We hope our cruise experience convinces you and puts you at ease to move forward in your planning. And we hope you get the same experience we had. Cheers to a memorable Nile River cruise tour. Stay tuned for more visuals of our past and future travels. Thanks for watching Maui and Trizzy. Subscribe and get notified. Shokran!